Every negotiable instrument tells a story. It begins at the issuance, when the issuer of the negotiable instrument transfers it to the payee. And the story ends when the negotiable instrument is presented to the issuer for payment. And we know that this is done through a process called negotiation. When we transfer a negotiable instrument, a promissory note or a check, through the process of negotiation, it creates a holder. And a holder is going to receive all of the rights of the previous possessor of the negotiable instrument. Now, there are two methods of negotiation so that the receiver becomes a holder, depending on whether the instrument is an order instrument or a bearer instrument. We negotiate order instruments through a process of signature and delivery. Remember, endorsement simply means a signature. It's an authentication that you are the person to who has the right to transfer the promissory note or the check. So to negotiate an order instrument, it requires both the endorsement and delivery. And delivery has historically meant physical delivery, transferring the document physically to a second person. In recent years, of course, we've seen the ability to accomplish delivery without delivering the actual piece of paper. Negotiating bearer instruments is done through delivery only, so there's no endorsement needed for a bearer instrument. So an endorsement is a signature with or without additional words or comments. The endorser is the person who transfers the note or the draft by signing, endorsing it, and delivering it to another person. And the endorsee is the person to whom the check or promissory note is endorsed and delivered. Now, there are different kinds of endorsements. Remember, it's a signature plus additional words. And these additional words can change the meaning of the endorsement. Let's start with the most common endorsement, which we refer to as a blank endorsement. And a blank endorsement is simply just a signature. There is no specific indorsee, and it has no words of restriction. So when a check or a promissory note is endorsed in blank, when there is a blank endorsement, it essentially becomes a bearer document, and it can be negotiated by delivery alone. So if I sign the back of a check with my name, then that check now becomes a bearer document, and I can transfer that check to a third party who can transfer it to a fourth party, and so on, simply through physical delivery of the document. Another type of endorsement is called a special endorsement. A special endorsement contains a signature, but it also identifies the endorsee. And when we endorse a check or promissory note in this way, it becomes an order instrument. If it's a bearer document, it becomes an order instrument. If it was originally an order instrument, it remains an order instrument. So in this case, we have a situation in which the endorsement says, pay to William Hunter, and then Hal Cohen. William Hunter is the payee, and this endorsement only transfers the rights of Hal Cohen to William Hunter, the endorsee. Another type of endorsement is a qualified endorsement, and it's used by an endorser who does not wish to be liable on the instrument. When we get into the final section of this topic, we will see that that everyone in the chain of endorsement may have liability on the document. someone may sometimes want to be excluded from that chain. And so they use what's called a qualified endorsement. We would often see this, for instance, in the case of a bankruptcy trustee who is going to have the power to endorse checks, but doesn't want to be personally liable on those checks. So they will use a phrase, usually something along the lines of without recourse. Without recourse means it's a qualified endorsement. Now, financial institutions don't like qualified endorsements because it reduces the number of people who may have potential liability on that negotiable instrument. And finally, restrictive endorsements. Restrictive endorsements require the endorsee to comply with certain instructions regarding the funds. For instance, if I sign an endorsement to pay only a named payee, this is the same legal effect as a special endorsement. We also have a phenomenon called a conditional endorsement, in which payment is made dependent on the occurrence of some event specified in the endorsement. Now, conditional endorsement does not destroy negotiability. However, again, financial institutions are going to be very reluctant to take a document with the idea that it is conditional on some event. And finally, the most common restrictive endorsement that you will see is an endorsement for deposit or collection. Many times a bank, for instance, in a mobile deposit, will instruct you to sign the document, make it for deposit only, or for deposit only to a certain named account. Or what we are increasingly seeing is for mobile deposit only. And what this does is it means that this instrument can only be negotiated through the restriction on the endorsement, which is to say you cannot cash the check. It is only permitted to be deposited into an account. So here's a check actually I just got a short time ago. Of course, we all use mobile apps to deposit checks right now, and so I simply say for mobile deposit only at the top and then include my signature. Now, endorsements will have an effect on the nature of the document. An endorsement can convert an order instrument to a bearer instrument, or vice versa. It can convert a bearer instrument to a order instrument. So it all depends on the character of the instrument at the time negotiation takes place, whether the instrument is an order instrument or not, a bearer instrument. So an instrument made payable to the order of a named payee and endorsed in blank becomes a bearer instrument, meaning when I sign the back of a check in blank, that check becomes a bearer instrument. Now, bearer instrument can be converted in an order instrument through a special endorsement, which is to say, pay to the order of John Smith, or something along those lines. Here's a couple of examples of how to convert an order instrument to a bearer instrument and vice versa. In the first case, we see a blank endorsement, a check payable to the order of Jessie Arnold. Arnold endorses the check in blank by simply signing her name, and thus converts the instrument to a bearer instrument. And she can now deliver the check to another company. An endorsement converting a bearer instrument to an order instrument, in this case, the party to whom she has given the bearer instrument, the Jonas Tolling in this example, can add a special endorsement and negotiate the check to a named endorsee. Now, the special endorsement, because it makes the instrument payable to a specific endorsee, in this case Mark Hyatt, converts the bearer instrument into an order instrument. So to negotiate the instrument further, Mark Hyatt would then have to endorse and deliver the instrument. And again, Mark Hyatt could sign it in blank, could endorse it in blank, and transform it back into a bearer instrument. I know that's a lot to get a hold of, but review these situations on your test. There may be questions regarding specific endorsements, so I'd have you look at those and be able to identify whether it's a blank endorsement, special, qualified, or restrictive endorsement. As always, if you have any questions, be sure and let me know. Thank you.